Our third and final speech is by David Vogelsheim. He is also speaking, doing a topic from the Competent Communicator Manual. This is his 8th speech, and the title is, When is 4% twice as much as 8%?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow members and guests. With the current economic climate we live in, I bet you all agree that the banking industry is probably not the most popular industry out there. Wouldn't you agree? And I'm not the type of person that likes to add any to the already negative image that they already have. So I think I'm going to take another approach to this. What I want to do is I want to help you to have a major paradigm shift about the way that you think about the banking industry today as it relates to long-term investing. So you're probably asking, how am I going to make you have a paradigm shift about the banking industry? Well, I have you marinating a little bit on this question, when is 4% twice as much as 8%? I know it seems like a pretty silly question, but after you listen to the story I'm about to tell you, you'll understand what I'm talking about, and you'll see that this is happening every single day. But the sad part is that most people don't even realize it's happening to them. So I want to introduce you to the main character of my story, Bill. He's age 25, and he wants to buy a Roth IRA down at the bank, where they're going to give him 8% guaranteed return. Now, you're probably asking, 8% guaranteed return, where can I get that? Well, you really can't, because I went on Google, and you'd be lucky if you could get a 2%. But this really good rate of return makes a really powerful example. Even though it's a good return, you'll see that this still works out pretty good. So basically, Bill decides that he wants to fully fund his Roth IRA. And what do I mean by fully fund? Meaning that he wants to put the maximum amount per year in his Roth IRA, and he wants to just do that until he's in retirement age. So he's 25 now, and he's planning on retiring at 65, so that'll be 40 years. And so $5,000 a year for 40 years, working at 8%, that's going to bring in $1.5 million. So if we subtract what Bill put in himself, the $200,000, the $5,000 a year for 40 years, he's going to walk away with a cool $1.3 million profit, tax-free because it's a Roth IRA. So let me ask you a question. Suppose you were like Bill and you had the bank help you turn $200,000 over the course of 40 years into a tax-free $1.5 million. You might be pretty happy. I think most people might be a little bit happy with that. But now let's see what the bank does with that money. So the bank, contrary to popular belief, and I know it's not really popular belief, but the bank's not going to just dig a hole in the ground and just put Bill's money in there and wait for him to come and ask for it. No, what they're going to do is they're going to lend it out to other people. Don't you agree? Mm-hmm. So let's just assume that they can get 4% greater return on investment than they're willing to guarantee Bill. I know it's a hard stretch of the imagination that a bank could get a 12% rate of return, but just look at bank credit cards these days. I've seen some bank credit cards with a 30% annual rate of return, or annual interest rate. So if we take the same $5,000 a year for 40 years, working at 12%, that's going to work out to be $5.2 million. Now, of course, that's not all the bank's money. They still have to pay Bill the guaranteed amount, the $1.5 million. But that leaves them with a profit of $3.7 million. So now let me ask you another question. So let's just, also, who put up all that money? Bill did, right? But what I was going to ask you is, suppose you got paid your $1.5 million, you're all happy with that, right? But suppose after you got paid your $1.5 million, you find out that the bank actually gets a $3.7 million profit on all the money that you put up. I bet that $1.5 million won't taste so sweet, will it? So that brings me to the original question. When is 4% twice as much as 8%? I'm hoping it's getting a little bit obvious now what the answer is, but it's simply when it's the bank's 4%, right? So, believe it or not, I'm not trying to bash banks here. What I'm trying to do is give you a little food for thought next time you're thinking about doing long-term investing. Some of the things you might want to think about is, banks serve a very important purpose. However, investing long-term into guaranteed accounts probably isn't the best financial decision that you can make for yourself. And also thinking about long-term investing, you want to bypass the middleman. Now, if Bill knew anything about the stock market, he might have known that during every 40-year period across the whole stock market, the stock market averaged 10%. So had he just gone ahead and invested that himself, or did a little bit better than average, he could have gotten the same thing that the bank got, the whole $5.2 million, and he wouldn't have to pay any middleman fees. Also, when doing long-term investing, you want to think about being more of an owner and not so much a loaner. When you're loaning, or when you go to the bank and get one of those CDs down at the bank, you're in essence agreeing to loan that money out for a guaranteed rate of return. When you buy stock, down at the stock market, like equity mutual funds, you're in essence buying actual shares in companies, sometimes over 200 companies of ownership. But the one thing is you don't get a guaranteed rate of return. But what is a guaranteed rate of return anyways? Because a guaranteed rate of return doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to win. Just check out this example I told you, and Bill got a good rate of return. He got an 8% rate of return, and his guarantee still cost him over $3 million. So again, I'm not trying to bash the banks. I'm not trying to tell you to make a run on the bank and take all your money out of the bank. I still think that it's good to have like a savings account, checking account, and like an emergency fund that you can access that account. It's a liquid account. But the one thing that I hope you get out of this, that major paradigm shift that I talked about earlier, is that hopefully when you're thinking about long-term investing, the one thing that you don't think about doing is doing that long-term investing down at the bank. Thank you.